hydrogeologic cycle or water cycle. It starts with evaporation, then condensation. Condensation means scattered molecules of water droplets or vapors joined together and creates a collective volume of vapors that we call it as condensation. Then it forms a cloud, goes rise up. You know, as we are studying it from since ninth, that how the rain occurs. So cloud formation, the cloud gets cold front, then it becomes more condensed. The condensed vapors converts into droplets of water. It becomes heavy. That's it fall down under effect of gravity. So this is called precipitation. The precipitations are of two types. That is snowfall. If it falls on the high altitude where the temperature is very low, the droplets are converted into crystals of ice, and that forms snowfall. And then if it is not at high altitude, a little bit comparatively warmer front, peneplain areas or low mountain areas, it precipitation will be in the form of rain. So water falls on the surface, start running on the surface of different characteristics. We call it as surface runoff. If it is steeper slope, it runs fast. Moderate slope, moderate speed, and level ground, it stops flowing. When it reaches to the very low ground or basins, it stops flowing. The water accumulates. Or sometimes it enters into the river stream, river network, and river ultimately pours all volume of water into the ocean here. Some part of water here shown going into the ground by mechanism of infiltration. It becomes part of underground system. We call it as underground water or groundwater commonly. So this groundwater is having natural outlets in the form of seepage and spring. Seepage is oozing or moistening of the surface, where the underground water is coming out, squeezing out, or let's say oozing out, seeping out. And so surface appears moist, but you cannot see the visible flow. You cannot see the flow. So it's just moist surface. But in the form of, if it is a spring, the same outlet, if it is coming out, underground water is coming out in the form of visible flow of water, then it is called as spring. Sometimes if the seepage area by micro droplets of water collects the water and further it converts into flowing visible flow, we call it as a spring. So seepage may lead up further to form spring. But sometimes if the outlets are larger in size and supply of groundwater from back end is ample, you can see directly flowing water coming out of the gaps. That is called spring. So ultimately it again flows from the place where it is poured out on the surface. So underground water comes out, poured out, and it flows or accumulates where it is poured out. Some in between processes are there. If it is vegetation, some amount of water is lost through the vegetation. We call it as transpiration or evapotranspiration. This is the term. It is used here, but they are not shown any vegetation here. But you can see a green colored, let's say grass, green covered ground. So vegetation loses water to the leaflets, and then we call it as evaporation. Another mechanism, we mentioned it last time, that it is guttation, where excess water of tree throws it out through the hydrothodes, and the droplets will be accumulated below the leaf of the tree, and that will evaporate. That is called guttation. Then further it takes the step of evaporation. Then some part of rain that falls down, few micro droplets may not reach to the ground, and due to high temperature in between it meets, it again will convert into vapor. So macro droplets of rain may not reach to the ground because of high temperature. It reaches in between, and again it will evaporate in the way on the way to the ground, towards the ground. Times ice also, technically sublimation is a conversion of direct solid into the vapor. That's ice to water vapor. Okay, so evaporation of water droplet, micro water droplets is possible when it starts its journey towards the ground under effect of gravity, but in between, if it meets higher temperature fronts, it may evaporate again and go up from the cloud for the condensation. And another way the water rises up is by sublimation, where solid ice loses water by due to heat by evaporation. This water cycle. So this is what we have discussed. No? A definition of groundwater. Groundwater hydrology may be defined as the science of occurrence, distribution, and movement of water below the surface of the earth, as the definition of hydrogeology, where it is occurrence, distribution, and movement of water below the surface of the earth. I added one more point that it has to be natural water. Okay. These are the factors that we have already studied, which controls the occurrence and distribution of groundwater in the region. As I said, that topography, and just mentioned that if the topographic design is steep slopes, that water runoff will be more. It cannot percolate underground by mechanism of infiltration. It will rather move down slopes. We call it as runoff. So design of topography or characteristics of slope decides the nature of runoff. Morphology means again signature or design pattern of the terrain. Then soil conditions, then having permeable, non-permeable soils, then thickness of the soil, the earlier moisture contained in the soil. So that decides the distribution and occurrence of the groundwater. For example, if the soil is more porous and loosely compacted, infiltration is rate of infiltration will be more. And if it is highly compacted, fine-grained soil, let's say clay type of soil, the porosity will be more, but pore connectivity will be poor. So infiltration possibility reduces. So this is another type of soil, very fine-grained, compact, that will not allow or reduce the probability of infiltration. Then the lithology of the area, at this point also we have seen that it depends on the rock characteristics. If the rocks are commonly sedimentary type, its occurrence, groundwater occurrence becomes more possible, because sedimentary rocks are supposed to be more porous, where infiltration is promoted. So it increases the subsurface water or groundwater. And if the rock is crystalline or igneous type, or let's say, for example, granite, as it is not having any pores like sedimentary rock, it is crystalline, hard, compact rock. So though the ground surface is, let's say, leveled or gently sloping, it do not promote infiltration. So surface runoff will be more. So as less infiltration is there in crystalline or igneous type of rock, for example, granite terrain, it will not allow water to infiltrate down. So availability of groundwater in such lithological conditions, let's say, will be less. Then structural aspect, we have with reference to this, we have studied in our bridge course the structures, that is shear zones, fracture, joints, fault, and folds. Okay, so whatever structures which are present in the rocks, which acts as voids or gaps where water can be stored below the surface, that is called a structural aspect. For our hydrogeology, the structures like fractures, cracks, joints, shear zones caused due to fault or fault plane gaps, or bedding plane gaps in the folded areas, acts as favorable locations for groundwater. So availability of groundwater increases more because of presence of structures. So you can imagine area without any structures in it, we will have less groundwater. That means, and if we have area or terrain having more structurally disturbed and have more structural features, and that will allow water to percolate, infiltrate, or store. So we will be having more water in areas where we will find more structures. Okay, let me take quick feedback. Are you getting what I am saying? Somebody immediately.
Yes, sir. Please
Okay,
continue.
I'm going to go further that you can see the screen different photographs presenting different terrains. You can see at the top left a sketch showing presence of faulted strata. Upper part is stratified layered, and lower part I can see shows discontinuity in lateral beds. You can see yellow colored bed here. It is not having lateral continuity, it has broken continuity. That means this is fault. So this gap acts as a place to store the water. And this is sedimentary rock, and this shown is काय हे सांगा? What can be this? Quickly.
Dike, sir.
Yeah, it is dike. So whatever water infiltrates here will be accumulated here, and whatever water is accumulated here in the porous rocks will not be allowed to go to left hand side of this dike. So dike acts as a barrier and stores this water in this area. So this part will be full of water, and you can see that to the left hand side you will be having no water because of controlling characteristics of dike. So dike controls the lateral mobility or lateral flow of the water. So you can say, so structural features. So here you can see lower left hand side corner of your screen, layered rocks, but if you watch carefully, the rock appears to be fine grained, but it is having secondary structures like you can see syncline here. To the left hand of syncline, we can see a uh, fault. I can say it as a fault because if you check the color tone of this bed, it is light colored, and if you continue to the left hand side, you cannot see the light color here. So this is definitely discontinuous relation. So this bed stops here. Do not continue to left hand side of this fracture. Rather, this bed is here, continued here. Okay, so this is definitely a fault. So whatever from the surface water percolate in will be channelized through the gaps of this fault plane, and again further through the bedding planes between these two beds or many beds. Okay, so smaller joint patterns or cracks present at the maximum curvature of anticline or syncline, that is joints, and then faults, and then bedding place. Bedding planes are the places where you will find scope for infiltration or accommodation or collection of subsurface water or underground water. Top right corner, you can see horizontal strata, but mainly made up of sedimentary rocks. So you'll find that its porosity is more. So whatever water falls, most probably it will be infiltrating and improving the groundwater or subsurface water conditions. This is positive terrain. And if you look at the right hand side bottom, उजव्या बाजूला खाली, if you see, it reflects the topography or morphology. Okay, so topography, if it is not leveled ground, that means runoff is more, infiltration is less, and that causes less possibility of generation or accumulation of groundwater. Now with this we'll be entering into the rock characteristics in detail, which controls the groundwater or underground water or affects the groundwater. For that, I have one another document. I'll be starting with this and then end up with that another document. Let me finish with this first. So you can see here at the left hand side bottom corner, yellow colored is the interparticular space. These are the particles of sediments or maybe rock, and you can see the interparticular space between these three particles is shown by blue color, and that gap or interparticular space is occupied by or filled up by water. Okay, so if you check the availability of blue colored area in this type of sediment and availability of interparticular space in this type of space sediment, that is you can see the figure at the center. Okay, so these two are different. You can see there are large size grains of the sediments in the central figure, and then interparticular spaces are filled up by relatively very fine grained material. So if you check the availability of gaps in the sketch that is placed at the center of your screen here, okay, the interparticular space or gap is filled by fine-grained material. So space availability is less in this case. But if you look at the blue area of this left-hand side figure, the space availability is more. So you can see that blue area sketch shows more probability of accommodation or accumulation of water in the interparticular space as compared to the central sketch that shows the interparticular space or gaps are occupied already by fine-grained material. There is no scope for storage of water, so you will find less water. And if you look at the extreme right side, you can see layered strata of very fine-grained sediments. Major difference between three is that though they are having possible scope to store the water in the interparticular space, the nature of rock as shown in the left hand side sketch where the interparticular gaps are free from anything, they are pure gaps, you will find more water stored into it. And as the gaps are interconnected properly, you can see the interconnections so that the water from one gap can move to the other gap and so on. So there is proper networking of gaps. So we call it as internal flow through the interparticular gaps. In this condition is more possible. In central condition it is less possible. And if you check the right hand side, very fine grained, interparticular gap connectivity is very poor if the rock is fine grained. Then due to interparticular gap connectivity less, though there is water into that pores, but it cannot flow through that medium. So we can say that flow of underground water through this fine-grained rock is less. This mixed type grain rocks is moderate, and if the gaps are clearly free from any sediments, so interparticular flow, particular flow or connectivity of gaps is more, so flow is more possible. So this is about internal flow. Actually, we call that as permeability. But in this blue colored sample, internal flow is more possible, or in other words, we can say that it is more permeable, allows the water to pass through it more easily. That is technical word used is permeable. So first example is showing maximum permeability, that is ability of a medium to transmit or allow the liquid to flow through its interparticular gaps or network of gaps. So its ability of that medium like rock or sediment to allow the liquid to pass through it. So in this case, in first diagram, the permeability, that is ability of this rock to transmit or allow the water to flow through its network is more. So in other words, permeability is more in first case, second case permeability is moderate, and third case, though there is more pores available, more porosity available, permeability is not favorable. Okay, so interparticular connectivity is poor, so permeability is less. So this is the next part of our presentation, that is vertical distribution of groundwater. Before we start, do you have any questions about these previous slides? Quick questions, one or two. Well, keep it there. We'll take it at the end of the lecture. Well, this next part, as you can see in the syllabus, vertical distribution of groundwater. This next part, as you can see in the syllabus, vertical distribution of groundwater. Up till now, you should be able to understand what is groundwater, to understand this point, vertical distribution of groundwater. Okay, groundwater is naturally available source of water which is stored or accommodated in the voids or gaps or interparticular spaces of the formations or rocks below the surface. Okay, and it depends on nature of rock that it is holding, right? And that nature in the form of different types of sediments present, or types of uh, particles which are present in the rock. We have just studied loosely compacted, having more gaps, moderately compacted, having less gaps, and highly compacted without more permeability. So this is what the groundwater, and this is vertical. This sketch is showing vertical distribution of groundwater. You can see a surface here in right side part. You can say surface of the ground, and these arrows indicates infiltration. He knows what are the conditions of infiltration. So this shows ideal ground. If the same ground is sloping, the surface runoff will be more, infiltration will be less, because sloping ground allows the water to laterally flow on the surface and do not allow it to rest on the surface. So for infiltration, we need water to rest a little on the surface, so that it will enter into the subsurface. Okay. So if the ground is leveled, infiltration is possible. So we have shown here ideal condition of ground where either it is leveled, or you can see at somewhere it is depression. Okay. So there is no or less mobility to surface water, which promotes infiltration. Now, just some moment ago, we have seen that what controls the infiltration, that is nature of soil, whether it is loosely compacted or coarse grained, and then it is suppose fine grained, like that, highly compacted. So nature of soil controls the infiltration. If it is coarse grained layer of soil, infiltration will be more and faster. It will improve the groundwater conditions. And if it is moderate size grains, then it will be moderate infiltration. Then if it is fine grained, it do not promote easily infiltration. So a soil of fine texture, fine size will not allow infiltration. So this is what the controlling factors. And then apart from that, third point is types of rocks or terrain, which is made up of different types of rock. And I said that sedimentary rocks normally are porous, and that promotes the infiltration. And extreme opposite condition is crystalline or igneous type of rock. Example is granite, that do not have uh, interparticular gaps or spaces where it can, though surface is leveled ground, it cannot allow water to infiltrate because of absence of gaps. So it depends on rock type, and then topography or design of the ground, that is morphological characteristics. So this zone is it can be elaborated that way, zone of infiltration. Okay. Now further, this water goes down or guided down under the influence of gravity. Okay, so it will be pulled towards the center of the earth under effect of gravity. But we cannot control only by gravity. It is not controlled only by gravity. It is controlled by different many factors, as I have told you, that type of soil it is going through, water drop or water is going through, or the type of rock it is going through. Imagine that if it is a hard crystalline rock on the surface, how come gravity will affect that? The water will stand ponding or accumulated on the surface itself. It cannot penetrate through the hard rock. So gravity cannot work here. So it also, that means, depends on characteristics of material through which the water is coming in under effect of gravity. So let's say now this water starts its journey downwards below the surface and becomes a part of underground water. So as soon as the drop enters below surface, it becomes a part of underground water system. Okay. So up to what depth it will go? That is again another question. So it will go up to the place where it will find any rock which stops its further journey downwards. So that rock will be either non-porous or very less permeable, will not allow the water to pass through its structure or gap structure easily. So let's say that if upper layer is made up of soil, then below that soil is sedimentary rocks, and below that sedimentary rock, if it is crystalline hard rock, that means water entering into the soil at the surface will stop at the surface or place where it meets the hard rock. Okay. Sometimes it is also possible that water percolates down from the surface through the soil, then goes through the sedimentary layers of the different types of rocks, and again it meets a special special type of sediment rock like shale, which is sedimentary rock, but it is non-permeable. So that layer of shale, which is non-permeable, stops the downward journey of this water. So this way, gravity has its limitation to allow the water to travel downwards. Okay. So let's say this water starts and stops at the place where it cannot go further down, and from that it starts rising up, filling up all the gaps. Like as I have given example last time that if you pour the water into the glass, it hits the bottom, and then water cannot go further down because bottom of that glass do not allow it to percolate down. Because it is a locked, there is no gap or pores into the bottom of the glass. So water level rises against the gravity. Okay, so if you pour the water into the glass, water level in the glass rises up, rises above against the gravity. Okay, so gravity pulls it down, but the water level rises up into the glass. So same thing happens here also. Water infiltrating from the surface meets or hits the rock formations where it do not allow that rock formation at the bottom or greater depth do not allow for the journey to go down. So water starts filling up from that level upwards towards the surface, like the water poured into the glass. Okay. So we have this scenario what is happening after the infiltration. So water rises up above towards the surface. Now what happens while rising up? It occupies all the gaps present, all the voids present in the uh, sediments, as you can see here. So while rising up, it occupies all interparticular gaps and rises up slowly. So if you see here, this blue part shows that it has occupied all gaps present in the rocks, and then it is rising up. So if the infiltration is still going on, this blue part will be rising up, will increase and reach up to the surface here. So if it matches the surface, we can say that it has uh, filled all the gaps present below the surface. Okay, so this happens sometimes. Sometimes if you see in the field that there are open wells or bore wells, you can see that water surrounding to that open well and the water level in the well is same. Or sometimes you can see that bore wells or open wells are overflowing along with the surface water flow. So that means that the rocks surrounding to that open well or bore well are saturated up to the surface, have filled the water up to the surface. So infiltration is maximum. Now there is no further infiltration possible. That's why such open wells or bore wells are showing water level equal to the level of surface water. Okay, so this is possible. But in some other conditions, we can say it can be seen as it is shown in the diagram where this uh, gaps filled are not up to the surface but are little bit below the surface. In that situation, we can say that the all gaps which are filled by water and there is no any gap left behind, we can say that it is saturated or filled completely up with the water, so that we can say it technically as zone or area or the part of rock formation below the surface where all gaps, all voids are filled up with the water. So that can be said as saturation zone. So those all gaps are saturated by water. So it is called a zone of saturation. Okay. Then above this zone of saturation, we don't have all voids filled up by water, but some part of that will be filled up by water. Okay. So you can see that there is another zone we don't have all pores filled up by water. So it is not saturated. So it is not zone of saturation. So you can see that unsaturated zone. Okay. So gaps in the soil or rock are not filled up by water. So opposite of saturation zone, we can say unsaturated zone. Common term. Okay. Now, before going to the unsaturated zone, we'll see this terminology that is called water table. So there are two terms mixed together to describe what this is. It is water and another is table. You know what is meaning of water, and also you know what is meaning of table. Okay. So it is a table-like characteristics of water. You have to understand what is table. The table is an object which is having flat top surface. Okay. So here water generates on an average a flat surface. Where it is this flat top surface of water is at the uppermost line. You can see here that is zone of saturation. So uppermost limit, technically you can define this water table as uppermost limit or uppermost layer of saturation, which appears like a flat table or surface. Flat surface is called as a zone of saturation. Is called as a water table. Okay. So this from side it appears to be one line, but if you check it in 3 dimension, you can see it appears to be as flat top of the table. As you can see, a water level in the glass is flat. Okay, like table. Same thing below surface also. Zone of saturation have topmost layer of saturation or limit of saturation, which appears like a level of water present in the glass. Okay, but it is subsurface. We cannot see it directly. It is in the form of pores occupied. But it definitely, if you check the connectivity of pores, the topmost surface appears to be a flat. So it is uppermost layer or limit of saturation where the water takes a shape of a table or like a flat surface. So it is water table. So that decides the upper limit. You can see below, above the water table, if you check the diagram, above the water level, light green colored one small transition zone is shown. Transition between unsaturated zone and saturated zone, we can see a green patch. Can you see that? That. Okay. So this green area is called as capillary margin or capillary fringe, or it is also called as microcapillary zone, which is present between unsaturated zone and saturated zone. So it is a transition zone. That's why it's called as fringe. Fringe is a margin or transition margin. You know what is capillary. If you know capillary, you can understand what it is. Capillary is a very fine tube. You might have used it for some chemical practicals in chemical laboratory, or few botany or zoology students might use it for some kind of experimentation in the laboratories. So capillary is as what we know as a very thin, fine glass tube of hair size gap, like a tube, hollow tube. Okay, gap of that tube is like a hair. That's why it is called capillary. So this area where we can say that capillary zone, water is present in the form of small channels or tubes like capillary, and which rises above the water table by the mechanism of surface tension or capillary action. If you take the a small tube or small capillary and sink it into the liquid or water, you can see that some amount of water rises into the capillary. The capillary level of water in that capillary will be a little bit more than the level of water. Okay, so level of liquid in that tube is a little bit above than the surrounding liquid in which that capillary is sunken. So we can say that this is this as a capillary mechanism or capillary action. So by the same mechanism, water in this capillary fringe or capillary zone is uh, stored, and the basic mechanism behind it is surface tension. And so if you but I can give you example how it functions. If you take a sand particle and just touch the liquid surface, the sand particle will suck the liquid from surrounding. Okay, or you can take the sponge and just touch the surface of the water. That sponge will suck some liquid into it. So all this happens due to capillary action. So behind capillary action, major function is surface tension again. Like if you take the sand grain or small rock, rounded rock grain, and touch with the water surface, you can see that a grain pulls the water, and the surface of that grain will be moist. Okay, so this is called as surface tension. So behind capillary action, surface tension is the main mechanism where every particle is having ability to hold on the water or attract the water molecules to satisfy its outer orbit ions. So it is, in other words, ionic attraction. So we say that ionic attraction of particular particles pulls some thin film of water around self around that particle, and you can say that it is a surface tension mechanism. And if you join three particles together, one above the other, liquid hold by surface tension by one particle will be given to the another particle above it. So one particle below, above one particle above the first will supply the liquid to the upper particle. So upper particle will again follow the mechanism of surface tension by ionic attraction, and it will pull the liquid of lower particle. So this liquid this way rises from bottom to upside against gravity by mechanism of surface tension, which causes further capillary action. So mainly behind capillary action, surface tension is the mechanism. Behind surface tension mechanism, ionic attraction is the mechanism. And I'm not interested now further to go detail into what is ionic attraction. Okay, so the capillary zone is the zone where water is rising above against the gravity by mechanism of surface tension and capillary action, where interparticular gaps acts as fine tubes or capillaries, and those tubes of interparticular gaps of sediments or rocks acts as capillaries which rises in which the water rises. So this zone is above saturated zone of water table, and the water is present in the capillaries. Whole 100% gaps are not saturated or filled up by water. That's why it is not part of saturated zone. Only in the capillaries water is there. That's why we separated this zone from the zone of saturation. So this is called as capillary zone. Now, above saturated zone is unsaturated zone. Between unsaturated and saturated zone is the zone of transition or fringe zone, where we defined it as a capillary zone because it is holding the water by capillary mechanism. And in this capillary zone, gaps are not 100% filled by the water. That's why it is not part of saturation zone. Well, now further above capillary zone is the zone where water from capillary zone due to high temperatures in upper part, that is near surface. You can see here the near surface, as it is exposed to the atmosphere, this surface will be comparatively little bit hotter. Okay, due to heat of this, some part present in the capillary fringe or capillary zone will be converted into vapors will rise up into this towards the surface. Okay, so capillary zone loses some molecules of water further up towards the surface, and above capillary zone there will be little bit uh, moisture content, but almost sometimes it will be dry. Okay, so it depends on the area, what it is. If it is a dry arid region, we can see that capillary zone will be very short, and the zone above, or the space above this capillary zone will be completely dry. Okay, even the upper part that is near the surface will also will be dry because of more heat, or heat of the sun, or dry air. So we can say that uh, if it is an ideal condition, we can say that above capillary zone there will be some moist soil particles, but we cannot say that they are properly interconnected. Percentage of saturation is very rare, very less here above capillary zone. uh, so we call this as a gap of availability of groundwater. Okay, so very dry zone of the above capillary fringe or capillary zone can be called as Vedot zone, um, or zone of uh, under saturation. Okay, so Vedot zone mainly do not have uh, water molecules in it. It can be called as technically dry zone. But if you go to the surface, some part of atmospheric moisture is collected by the soil particles here near the surface. Atmospheric moisture will be held on by the soil particles. So this zone will be a little bit moist. Okay, so we can say that soil moisture zone. So small grasses and all shrubs and bush will take water from this soil moisture and survive. So soil moisture zone is the source. The moisture from the moisture zone is sourced from the atmosphere, and it will be. Um, there are two technical terms: um, hygroscopic nature of the soil, and second technical term is what that is, adsorption. Adsorption. Okay, so soil acts as a hygroscopic, not hydroscopic. I am saying hygroscopic nature of the soil, where hygroscopic means it can hold on the moisture from the surrounding air or atmosphere. That is called hygroscopic nature. You know this term being a science student, because there was some uh, characteristics or properties of metals you have studied in 11th standard as a basic sciences. Okay, 10th also, 9th, 10th, and 11th. These are 3 years you have studied the term hygroscopic. And second term is adsorption. This term is specially, I know that definitely it is part of your sorry, 11th standard syllabus or 12th standard syllabus. That is called adsorption. It is, let me technically define it if you have forgotten. It is um, surface accumulation. Adsorption is surface accumulation of water, but it do not um, take part in the chemical reaction. That is what you have studied. So that liquid here in our case it is water. It accumulates around the particle without chemically reacting with it. So that the droplets of water will be attached to the soil particle or sediment particle. Okay, it is just resting on the surface of that particle. To that we say that it is adsorbed. If it becomes the part of structure of that soil particle, that means if it enters into the structure through some ionic exchange, then we can say that it is absorbed. So this do not take place. This step do not take place. Ionic exchange do not take place. That's why we say that it is absorbed, mechanically attached. Okay, so this is adsorb. So you will find this surface soil having hygroscopic in nature, which holds the water by mechanism of adsorption. Okay, I don't know whether you can see the section drawn here at the left hand side. Same thing is elaborated here, so you need not worry about if you don't see it anything, but you can zoom it and see it. The presentation link will be given to you. Afterwards, you can elaborate it afterwards. You can see. Same thing is here elaborated here. This blue shows zone of saturation. This line is the water table. This light blue color, sky blue color is zone, capillary zone, where water is in the form of capillary. And then above it is dry zone, let's say. Technically, we call it as vadose zone. Then uppermost zone is called as soil water zone. Okay, sometimes you can see name it as A, B, C also. Okay. See if you can read it. Water in the soil water zone exists at less than saturation. Okay, except when excessive water reaches the ground surface as it forms the rainfall. Okay, so it is soil water zone means excess groundwater has to be there at the time of rain. Second point is the amount of the water present in the soil water zone depends primarily on the recent exposure of soil to the moisture. Obviously, the uppermost zone they are talking about this. If this zone is exposed to the moisture, then it will be having water. Same thing is expressed here in the red color. Under hot arid conditions, a water vapor equilibrium tend to become established between the ambient temperature or air and the surface of fine-grained soil particles. As a result of that, thin films of moisture known as hygroscopy, this is what I have just mentioned, I need not explain. For coarse-grained materials, additional moisture is available, obviously. It is just the person who has classified this into three types. That is, only one or two terms are made different. That is Briggs. He has separately classified the zones of water, vertically distributed water. Briggs. He says that uppermost is hygroscopic water because of hygroscopic mechanism of the soil. We say that it's moist soil zone. Then capillary zone is common as he has kept as it is. And then up lowermost part, he says that the zone of saturation, as we say, where water table is the topmost limit of zone of saturation, he says it as, Griffith says it as a gravitational water. Obviously, as the water stored in the zone of saturation is due to function of gravity, we can say that it is gravitational water. Well, he mentions with respect to the function of accumulation. Here in early conditions, we mentioned this with respect to the saturation process, okay, whether it occupies the voids or not on that basis. So it appears that zone of saturation appears to be more rational to the availability of water. If you want to go practical, we can say that is it saturated or dry? That means is there water or not? Okay, so we will in common day-to-day routine we do not use this term as a what Briggs says, that gravitational water. Okay, so this is a process related classification, vertical distribution, where water will be accumulated under effect of gravity. That is called gravitational water. Well, if you want to remember this as with respect to process, how it is formed, you can remember it, but it can't be said as it is practical. Same things are mentioned here in this slide. Hygroscopic, you know now that you need not see what is there. Then capillary, then you knows it. Gravitation also you knows it. Under influence of gravity, what he says, he explains the mechanism of it. See, whatever the process you mentioned it here, it may be hygroscopic in nature. That is, when it explains the mechanism how the water is accumulated by the process of hygroscopic or adsorption process, or in the saturation zone gravitational effect will be same. Okay, in the capillary zone effect will be same. Water will be in the form of capillary, water will be in the form of droplets in hygroscopic, and water will be occupying all gaps in saturation or gravitational zone. So facts will not change, it will remain as it is. Again, another diagram. You can see here grounded a little bit better animated. You can see here, you can see vertical lines. This artist has tried to show the capillaries, or thin tube like appraisal of water through the capillaries. Okay. One thing here important is that the thickness of these different zones may vary. Like for example, the wetter zone between where there is no water can reduce in its thickness in rainy season, because infiltration will be more, and this zone of saturation will increase. So this water table will rise up slowly. So this way, this zone thickness will reduce if the zone of saturation increases. But if you check same zone, same area in summer, due to extraction of water through the open, you can see here open well, sorry, bore well, or open well. Okay, so this water will be extracted out. So this level will drop down. So water table will drop down. You might be hearing news in the newspapers or media that water level has gone down. What does that mean? That means people have taken out more water because of their needs. So water level goes down, groundwater level goes down. So in that case, if the groundwater depletes, goes down, that means this weather zone thickness increases with increases. Okay. So again, it depends on many factors: rate of extraction to that um, zone of saturation by external agencies, and then again seasonal variation, and again it is having control of um, region, how whether that region, what type of rock it is having, and then topographic design. So this is what it is there. Capillary zone extends from the water table up to the limit of capillary rise of the water, or capillary fringe, that is margin. In is one which lies immediately above the zone of saturation. Same thing is mentioned here. The slide link will be shared to you. We need not repeat the same point. If you check whether it is same or not, you look at the last point, that is thickness of the zone is dependent upon the texture of the soil, formation above the zone of saturation. It is same pores and porosity, they are mentioned the same thing, so I am not interested to repeat the same point. So um, same thing is here, same thing mentioned saturation. Only one point here you can see here, right hand side, they shows it natural gravel showing interparticular or um, gaps, interparticular gaps, or pores, or let's say porosity. And left side here, see, you can see cracks present, fractures present in the rock. So these two are different. These interparticular gaps are first hand, and these cracks are developed afterwards. Okay, after the formation of rock. So this is primary, where particular gaps in the gravel are primary. If you look at the left hand side, they are secondary. Okay. So to the conclusion, try to read out. Vertical distribution gives the distribution of water in various stages. Okay. So whether you start stages from infiltration and then end up with the downward flow because of blockage of non-porous crystalline bottom layer, or you can come from bottom to up. Okay. Objective was to access the movement of water either horizontally or vertically based on geological conditions. Vertically, you know that we have discussed about it. Laterally, you also know that lateral movement is also possible. It depends on the permeability, whether that rock formation allows the lateral movement of water or not. So it depends on interconnectivity of pores, basically availability of pores, and then interconnectivity of the pores, so that it will allow to move it laterally. Then again, topographic conditions. Some part of that I have discussed it last time. Most of the well which gives high yield, it means to give It gives the surface to subsurface runoff easily. Okay, that means those wells which are giving maximum yield of water, that means they are present in porous terrain. Let's say having more porosity, let's say sedimented rock terrain. Okay, so more is the infiltration, more are the yields of water in those areas to the wells, open wells or bore wells. So vertical distribution of the groundwater helps us to quantify, means calculate of water availability in the system. Okay, obviously, uh, it helps us to understand if the favorable conditions are there for downward flow. We can say that how much water is available if the whole terrain is of a homogeneous material. Let's say all terrain is of sedimentary, loosely compacted sedimentary rock. So we can judge how much is the rate of infiltration, and if the rock are of same characteristics, if we know the porosity, you can estimate how much volume of water that pores are holding below the surface. So quantifying is possible, means you can estimate the probable quantity of groundwater available if the rock is of same type, having constant porosity, laterally distributed. So it is having uniform characteristics of permeability, porosity, permeability, and storage capacity. So on that basis, it is possible to quantify the water availability. Where whole world uses this figure for explanation. So you should not miss it. This is reference from Todd, which is the standard reference. Todd is the name of author of the book Hydrogeology, groundwater geology. So you go for that so this is you can see this is the rock which stops the further down entry. It is said impermeable, means non-permeable. That means it do not allow the liquid to pass through it. So this is the substratum or bottom rock which stops the downward entry of this water, like the bottom of the glass. Okay, so this is zone of saturation, technically speaking. This is the last limit of zone of saturation. We call it as water table. Below that is the capillary zone. Below that is zone of no water or very scanty molecules of water. We say that Vadose zone, no water. And then soil water zone, where water will be there, slightly percolated from the surface, and then water hold, soil particle holds by mechanism of adsorption and soil's hygroscopic nature. Okay, so in total, soil water zone and intermediate zone of Vadose is called a zone of aeration. Okay, Aeration, aeration. So zone of aeration or Vadose zone. So zone of aeration or zone of Vadose zone is divided into intermediate Vadose zone and soil water zone. Okay, so this is what the technical figure is, and you have to refer this as a standard figure and use it for answering the questions. Yeah, porosity, the void space in between the crystal or fragments, let's say interparticular space, that's make up a rock. पुढे दिले त्यांनी पर्सेंटेज ऑफ व्हॉइड, एक कॉमन टर्म आहे बघा. पर्सेंटेज ऑफ व्हॉइड म्हणजे काय? गॅप्स. Percentage of gaps, empty spaces in the rock, that is porosity. Or voids or spaces in between the crystals, म्हणजे तो crystalline rock असेल तर crystals आणि sediment rock असेल तर fragments किंवा sediment म्हणलंय. That is porosity. Primary porosity and secondary porosity. मगाशी एक डायग्राम दाखवलेली तुम्हाला आठवत असेल तर बघा, राईट साइडला एक इंटरपार्टिक्युलर स्पेस असलेला ग्रॅव्हल दाखवला होता आणि डावीकडच्या बाजूला, उजवीकडच्या बाजूला ग्रॅव्हल दाखवला होता आणि डावीकडच्या बाजूला तुम्हाला फ्रॅक्चर्स असलेला रॉक दाखवला होता. त्याला म्हणलो होतो आपण सेकंडरी पोरोसिटी. So if the rock is having original gaps present in it, like the interparticular gaps in the sediments, that is primary gaps. Those are formed at the time of formation of rocks. Or the presence of joints in basalts, we call it as columnar basalts. Those are joints which are formed at the time of formation of rock. Or the vesicles present in basalt, we say vesicular basalt. Those vesicles are formed at the time of formation of rock. They are origined at the time of origin of rock. So those all gaps where water can be accommodated or accumulated or stored, those gaps can be said to have those rocks can be said to have primary porosity. So those voids or gaps are developed at the time of formation of a rock. So it is primary porosity. Okay. So let's read out for your convenience. Primary porosity is the porosity formed during the formation of rock itself, such as voids between the grains of sand, voids between minerals in the hard consolidated means is igneous rock. Okay. Or bedding planes of sedimentary rocks, gap between two beds is called bedding plane, it is a flat surface like a table. Okay. So bedding planes between the beds or here they have not mentioned the two primary porosity, that is joints, columnar joint or joints present in the rocks and the vesicles present in the rock. Okay, so edit point, remember that these 2 points while preparing your notes. So secondary porosity are secondary porosity which are formed after, created after, the porosity which is created after the rock formation, mainly due to tectonic forces, that is faulting, folding, fracturing, jointing, shear zone development, twisting, and all that. Okay, so that creates micro and macro, means small scale to large scale features. We said fissure, fracture, fault zones, same thing that I have explained is here. You can refer it as a notes. This is what we have seen there also. But here near you can see two sketches which shows one as to be having rounded texture or rounded nature of the grains, and at your right hand side box shows angular fragments. If you check, the rounded fragments are having more interparticular spaces, and if you check, the angular fragments are having less interparticular spaces. So coarse and rounded, if are the nature of rock, rock's internal structure, then porosity and permeability will be more. That means if the rock is having minerals or sediments of coarse grained and rounded, porosity and permeability both will be more. And if they are angular, then the permeability will be less. आता मला एक प्रश्न विचारायचा बिफोर आय गो फर्दर. बघा, आता इथं समजा एक पोर पर्सेंटेज ह्या एरियामध्ये, हा जो काही तुम्हाला फ्रेम दिलेला लेफ्ट साइडचा डायग्राम दाखवते, त्याच्यामध्ये समजा पोर पर्सेंटेज आहे टोटल रॉकच्या 10% असं म्हणूया, 10% जे काय डायग्राम दिसते ह्याप्रमाणे बरं का, 10% असं म्हणूया पोर स्पेस, पोरोसिटी इज 10%. लेट्स से काय म्हणतोय बघा, डावीकडचं फ्रेम दिसते तुम्हाला ज्याच्यामध्ये राउंडेड ग्रेन्स दिसत आहेत, ते राउंडेड ग्रेन्सच्या रॉक मध्ये 10% पोरोसिटी असं म्हणूया आपण. आता मला एक कंडिशन तुम्हाला नवीन ऍड करायची, ज्याच्यामध्ये तुम्हाला उत्तर द्यायचं आहे की पोरोसिटी वाढेल की कमी होईल. प्रश्न असा आहे बघा, इफ दिस इज द ग्रेन, if I break it into 4 parts, ह्याचे मी 4 तुकडे केले. If I break this grain into 4 parts, instead of one common unit as a unit, I break it into 4 parts. Whether porosity increases or decreases. गॅप, पोरोसिटी म्हणजे काय? अवेलेबल गॅप्स. अवेलेबल गॅप वाढेल का कमी होईल?
It will decrease, sir.
गॅप वाढेल की गॅप कमी होतील?
It will decrease.
Decrease. Porosity decrease. आता या ठिकाणी ना गॅप कुठे आहे का याच्यामध्ये? नाही आहे गॅप, एक अखंड ग्रेन आहे हा. जर मी ह्याला ब्रेक केलं तर नवीन गॅप तयार होणार ना, जी याच्यामध्ये कुठंच नाहीये. इथं नाहीये गॅप, इथं नाहीये, इथं नाहीये, इथं नाहीये, तर कुठंच नाही गॅप, ती नवीन तयार होणार आहेत गॅप्स. So if the new gaps are formed, how come porosity will decrease? Whether it will decrease or increase? काय वाटतं तुम्हाला?
increase.
इन्क्रीज होणार. कारण सांगा, तुम्ही समजा एक सॉलिड घेतलं कुठलं पण, काय घेऊया, कुठलं घेऊया आता आपण, एक ग्लास घेऊया, ग्लास. ओके, त्या ग्लास मध्ये फिट होणार आपण एक लेट्स से 2 इंच बाय 2 इंच. ओके, एक 2 इंच बाय 2 इंच सॉलिड मटेरियल घेऊया, दगड घेऊया. लेट्स टेक अ piece of stone of 2 inch by 2 inch dimension and put it into the glass. ठीक है. Now you can pour the water into it, right? ब्रिम पर्यंत ग्लास पूर्ण काटकोट भरायचं. त्याच्यामध्ये कोण आहे? 2 इंच बाय 2 इंचचा सॉलिड रॉक आहे. Now you measure the water. How much water volume is there? In second condition, break the same rock into many pieces and pour the water again. In first condition, more water will be accommodated, or second condition, more water will be accommodated?
In second condition, sir. In second condition.
हाँ,
सेकंड कंडिशन मध्ये जास्त पाणी बसेल सर ग्लास मध्ये.
ऑब्वियसली बरोबर आहे, नवीन गॅप तयार झाले ना पाण्याला. So it causes fine granularity. You can see at the right hand side fine granularity. Porosity will increase definitely, but interparticular connectivity will decrease. Okay, side A shows interparticular space completely empty, gap is fully available for water. Check case number B, some interparticular space is filled by little finer grained material, yet there is gap, but not as compared to this first case. Less water will be stored here. Case number C, more ideal condition, because interparticular space is more, like first case, same like first case, but in first case the particle itself. But in case number C, that is right hand side top, that is C, this one, this particle which is having interparticular space, that interparticular space will be also filled up with water, and particle itself is having some gaps inside it. So some water will be absorbed, not adsorbed, absorbed into the particle. That water will be there, and again interparticular spaces of such particles which absorb the water, that interparticular space also holds some water. So this is more ideal condition. Now if you go to the left hand bottom corner, where you can see interparticular space is filled by dark area. The dark area nothing but very fine grained compact material which cannot allow the water to flow, or rather water to store also. So it will have less storage of water and less movement of water through its pore gaps. You can see the case number E, that is bottom line central figure. You can see that these are the blocks of rocks. These are the blocks of rocks, and you can see the gaps here. These are the gaps between the blocks. This is caused due to solution action or chemical action. So bedding planes or fractures will be widened, or gaps of bedding planes will be widened by the solution action, and then those gaps will act as a places to store the water. So solution action causes more availability of gaps because of widening. So this acts as a ideal place to store the water. If you check extreme right bottom, that is F, which shows, as I have told you in that figure, that is secondary porosity. It is, you can see the network of fractures, or you can say joints, which accumulates water. But this block in between is not having any porosity, these parts, so it do not accumulate water. It cannot store water. Only the gaps between the blocks, fractured blocks. So those fracture network can store the water. So as compared to this top line examples, lower examples are supposed to be having less possibility of holding the water. So same thing is mentioned here. If I could zoom out a little bit, you can see and read also. Yeah. So case number A shows well sorted sedimentary deposits having high porosity. Then second figure, that is here, poorly sorted sediments deposit having low porosity. And well sorted sedimentary deposit म्हणजे याचं काय ट्रान्सपोर्टेशन झालेलं आहे, but it is having हे जे पेबल्स आहेत themselves porous, खाली लिहिलंय बघा इथे, they are themselves porous. हायलाइट केलेला पार्ट दिसतो का बघा ब्ल्यू मध्ये. Okay, these particles themselves are porous, so it is having let's say, in other words, common term, double porosity. Okay, interparticular pores are also there, and the particles which are in the rock, they themselves are having porous nature. So this is about ABC. Now, though I zoom out, probably you cannot see the diagram and description also, because the description of next part, this lower three part, goes to the next page. But I shall read. You try to remember these figures. See, this first figure is having interparticular gaps filled by crystalline solid material or very compact cement. Second is solution gaps. Third is fracture gaps. So let's go to the description here in the second page. So you will understand the technically presented content of these three. So it says left hand side was well sorted. Well sorted, you can see proper rounding of the grains. That's called well sorted. Well sorted sedimentary deposits whose porosity has been diminished by the deposition of mineral matters. गॅप मध्ये कोणून प्रेसिपिटेट झाले मिनरल मॅटर्स. इंटरपार्टिक्युलर स्पेस मध्ये मिनरलचे प्रेसिपिटेशन झाले, केमिकल प्रेसिपिटेशन झाले, त्याच्यामध्ये गॅप्स अवेलेबल नाहीत. नो गॅप्स आर देअर, सो देयर इज नो चान्स फॉर वॉटर टू अकोमोडेट. सेंटरची जी होती फिगर तुम्ही जर पाहिलं असेल तर त्याच्यामध्ये काय बघा, ही यांनी लक्षात ठेवायचं आता. त्याच्यामध्ये सोल्युशन ऍक्शन आहे. सी सोल्युशन इज नथिंग बट अ केमिकल रिएक्शन. Water dissolves some content of rock, creates the gaps, and that gap will be acting as a places to store the water. So rock rendered porous by rendered means it converted into porous by solution action. And third is rock rendered porous by fracturing. That is a mechanical breakdown, maybe some technical reasons. Okay, tectonic reasons. Well, this is about availability of porous nature and causes of variation in the porosity. Don't forget that there are two types of porosity, primary and secondary porosity. Now permeability, that means ability of media, that is rock or sediments or formations to transmit the water. See, permeability is a measure of the degree to which the pore spaces are interconnected. Interconnection is very important. If the rock is coarse-grained, well sorted, then and rounded, then interconnectivity is more. And you have seen that rocks with angular nature but fine-grained are having less interconnectivity. So this affects this one. This one, angular fine-grained, porosity is more, but interconnectivity reduces as the grain size decreases. And if you check the left-hand side, grain size is more, rounding, porosity, both permeability, interconnectivity is better. So finer is the size, more is the porosity, but connectivity, internal connectivity of network of pores is less. So we say that it is less permeable. So ability of interconnection of pores in fine-grained rock is less. Ability of interconnection of gaps or pores or interparticular spaces is more in coarse-grained and rounded. So ideal is more permeable rock is coarse-grained, rounded. That is having more better interconnected pore spaces. Okay. And you can see this size of interconnection. Okay. Low porosity usually results in low permeability. Okay. But high porosity does not necessarily imply high permeability, because I just told that if the grain size decreases here, as we say here, as grain size decreases, porosity increases definitely, because if you break this grain into 4 parts, additional pore gaps are available, but grain particle reduces, reducing the internal connectivity of the pores. So permeability decreases. So pore availability increases in fine-grained rock, but internal connectivity of pores decreases due to fine-grained nature. So there is disadvantage of fine-grained nature. Okay. But if you compare rounded fine-grained and angular fine-grained, if you check comparatively, जर दोन्ही फाईन ग्रेंड असतील पण एक आहे राउंडेड, तर त्याची इंटरकनेक्टिव्हिटी चांगली असेल. आणि जर राउंडेड फाईन ग्रेंड नसेल, तो असेल फाईन ग्रेंड अँग्युलर, तर त्याचं परमेबिलिटी आणखीन कमी असणार. So this is about basic of permeability. Okay. A good example of rock with high porosity and low permeability is vesicle or lake rock. बघा, तर वेसिकल्स मध्ये फॉर एक्झाम्पल बेसाल्ट आहे. वेसिकलर बेसाल्ट मध्ये भरपूर पोर्स असतात, वेसिकल्स असतात, but those pores are not well connected. So though porosity is more, we do not have permeability. Water present in that pores or gaps of vesicles cannot be interconnected, so it cannot flow laterally or vertically, so it is not useful. So that's why we face problem in Maharashtra, because we are having igneous rocks, and those are not actually mainly basically they are not having any primary porosity except only columnar joint gaps and vesicles which are not permeable. That is the problem. With some content that columnar joint network gaps are interconnected, better connected, but vesicles are not connected. So that is the problem in basaltic terrain. So you'll be facing this challenge when you take the responsibility of making the water available for people. See, permeability, they further elaborate that permeability depends only on the physical properties of porous medium, that is grain size. If the grain size is more is the porosity, more is the permeability. The grain size is less fine grained, more is porosity, but less is the permeability. If the grain shape is rounded, then more is the permeability. If the grain shape is angular, less is the permeability. And they say that arrangement of pores means what? If the sediments in the sedimentary rocks are more compact, means compaction is more, then less permeability. If the loosely compacted, if more permeability. Okay. Let's say two rocks of same nature of the sediment. Let's say coarse grained rounded material is there, but there are two different rocks with same type. One is more compacted, other is less compacted. What will happen? The one which is more compacted will be having less porosity and less permeability, and the other one which is loosely compacted will be having more porosity and more permeability. So it is what is referred to arrangement of grains. Also, it is also arrangement of combination of grains, round plus angular mix. Round mix means round coarse, round fine. असे mix असलेले. Then both round but fine. Okay, all round, all coarse. Coarser are rounded in shape, but interparticular gaps are filled up by angular fine. Or both angular and rounded are of same size, but both are fine grained. Both angular and rounded are of same size, but both are coarse grained. So there are multiple combinations of possibilities with round, coarse and fine, angular, coarse and fine. So one rock can be mixture of all round, coarse. Second combination, all fine, round. Listen carefully. एक टाइपचा रॉक कुठला आहे त्यातलं सेडिमेंट सगळे कोर्स ग्रेन्ड राउंडेड मटेरियल आहे. दुसरा रॉक कुठला राउंडेड आहे सगळे फाईन ग्रेन्ड आहे. तिसरा टाइप कुठला कॉम्बिनेशन कोर्स राउंड आणि फाईन राउंड. शेप कॉमन ठेवला आहे, साईज चेंज केला आपण. आता इकडे ऑल कोर्स अँग्युलर असा एक रॉक आहे. दुसरा रॉक आहे कोर्स अँग्युलर प्लस फाईन अँग्युलर. त्या पुढचा रॉक आहे मिक्सचर ऑफ अँग्युलर, कोर्स अँग्युलर, फाईन. आता क्रॉस कॉम्बिनेशन फाईन घेऊया आधी. राउंड फाईन, अँग्युलर फाईन असा एक रॉक असू शकतो. राउंड फाईन, कोर्स अँग्युलर असा एक रॉक असू शकतो. कोर्स राउंड, फाईन अँग्युलर असा एक रॉक असू शकतो. कोर्स राउंड, कोर्स अँग्युलर असा एक रॉक असू शकतो. किती झालं कॉम्बिनेशन? अबाउट अरेंजमेंट. त्याच्या व्यतिरिक्त एवढ्या सगळ्या कॉम्बिनेशनचे हायली कॉम्पॅक्ट आणि लुजली कॉम्पॅक्ट असे दोन टाईप येतील. किती झालं टाईप बघा. So this is what it is talking about, arrangement, grain shape and arrangement. पुढची जी डायग्राम आहे ती ऑलरेडी आपण डिस्कस करून झालेली आहे. दिस इज वन ग्रेन ऑफ पार्टिकल, दिस अनदर ग्रेन ऑफ पार्टिकल. झूम करून दाखवलाय त्यांनी मुद्दाम. अनदर ग्रेन ऑफ पार्टिकल, अनदर ग्रेन ऑफ पार्टिकल असे 4 पार्टिकल दाखवले एका फ्रेम मध्ये. आणि ही जी लाईन दाखवली आहे मार्जिनला, दिस इज वॉटर. This is water. Water attracted to grains by force of molecular attraction. ज्याच्यामध्ये आयोनिक एक्सचेंज आहे बरं का थोडासा. म्हणजे आयन्स आर causing the attraction. So there is some electrostatic force which is holding the water molecules. The electrostatic force of this particle which is holding the water. Okay. So water attracted to grains by force of molecular attraction. Okay, and this is the gap. This is one grain, this is water film attached due to molecular attraction. This is another water film. So this is the gap between these two films. So this water which is attached to the particle cannot easily move because it is having electrostatic force which causes attachment to this. So this water is not flowable water, movable water. It is almost static water, stable water. It do not go. If the gap between these two, beyond the layer of this water attached to the particle, beyond the layer of this water attached to this particle, so this gap is the gap available for the free flow of water through the interparticular space. This is very important. So water free to move through pore gaps this is the gap. This water attached to the particles do not move. And we want this gap. Where this gap is more, then we can say that there is ample permeability. A thin, you can read out, a thin layer of water is always attracted to mineral grains due to the unsatisfied ionic charge of the surface. कुणाचा पार्टिकलचा सॅन्डच्या किंवा आणखीन कुठला सेडिमेंट किंवा रॉक कुठला असेल तो. That's why it attracts the water. Okay. This is called the force of molecular attraction, as shown तुम्ही फिगर बघितला. The size of interconnections is not as large as a zone of molecular attraction. The water cannot move. म्हणजे मध्ये जे गॅप आहे तिचं सफिशियंट नसेल, आता इथे दाखवली बघा, there is no gap at all here, so water cannot move through this small tiny gap. Here gap is more, the water can freely move here. So beyond this layer, space should be available for the free mobility, so that we can say that it is having more permeable. So this is what we just seen. Factors affecting the magnitude of permeability, again we have said, just in shape, size, sand grain and whatever. Then lamination is layering, it is related to shell structure, sedimentary structure present in the rock shell. Okay. Shell नावाचा rock आहे रे, sedimentary, which is having very fine grained material, जे मगाशी वरती दाखवली diagram. So if fine grained rock is there, permeability is less. Permeability is less if the rock is fine grained, like lamination. Lamination is a structure present in the shell. Shell is the rock which is very fine grained. That means it is having less porosity and permeability. Sorry, less permeability, porosity can be more. Then cementation. We have seen just above one rock having precipitated minerals filling the gap between the particles. So they don't live behind the gaps. So cementation material. Sediment rocks मध्ये आपण टेक्स्चर डिस्क्राइब करताना सिमेंटेड आणि सिमेंटिंग कॉम्पोजिशन डिस्क्राइब करताना सिमेंटेड आणि सिमेंटिंग म्हणतो. If you have forgotten, let me go back to the figure. This is called as cemented, the one which is coarse grained. Cemented, the large size particles. And this is cementing material. Dark color दिसते ते cementing, किंवा हा fine grained चा white color चा हा cementing आहे. आता वरच्या डायग्राम मध्ये थोडं बघा, थोडं वरती सारखं, हे मधली डायग्राम, हे सिमेंटेड, लार्ज साइजचे सिमेंटेड आणि स्मॉलर साइजचे ते सिमेंटिंग. सिमेंटिंग, सो डिपेंड्स ऑन दॅट. पहिल्या फिगर मध्ये सिमेंटिंग काहीच नाही आहे, प्युअर गॅप्स आहेत, नो सिमेंटिंग मटेरियल, ओनली सिमेंटेड. सो वॉट एव्हर गॅप्स आर देअर 100% अवेलेबल फॉर वॉटर. Water will go and stay there. Here, if the cementing material is present, less water will be stored. इथं लेफ्ट साइडला डार्क दिसतो तो डी. सिमेंटिंग गॅप जी आहे ती पूर्णपणे प्रेसिपिटेट झालेलं मिनरल आहे, कुठे गॅप शिल्लक नाही तिथे. जसं की चिक्की मधला गुळ, चिक्की पाण्यात बुडवा बघू, पाण्यात सब करेल का ती? नो, बिकॉज अराउंड दॅट शेंगादाना ऑल गुळ इज देअर. इफ देर इज नो गुळ, देर विल बी गॅप. लाईकवाईज खायची गोष्ट काढली की लगेच कळते. काही काही जणांना माईक चालू करून हसत असलं तर हसू शकता. Because we are at the ending phase of lecture, can enjoy little. थोडं हळू बोलेला आवाज ऐकायला तो का रे? आता काय दोन याचे प्रकार सांगितले, आणखीन एक ऍडिशनल प्रकार सांगितला, इंट्रिन्सिक परमेबिलिटी. याच्यामध्ये फक्त काय म्हणलंय की देर इज नो एनी रिलेशन बिटवीन द नेचर ऑफ लिक्विड. फक्त प्युअरली पोर स्पेसिस किती ह्याला महत्व आहे याच्यामध्ये. कुठल्या विस्कॉसिटीचा फ्लुइड चाललाय याच्यामध्ये, फ्लुइड प्रॉपर्टीज इंडिपेंडंट ऑफ फ्लुइड प्रॉपर्टीज. अशी पोरॉसिटी जी फ्लुइडच्या प्रॉपर्टीशी इंडिपेंडंट आहे, म्हणजे कुठल्याही विस्कॉसिटीचा असो, कुठल्याही टाईपचं लिक्विड असो, त्याच्या संबंधाचा काय, त्याची स्वतःची ॲबिलिटी किती आहे, पोर इंटरकनेक्टिव्हिटी ऑफ पोरशी किती आहे त्याची, हाऊ मच पोर इंटरकनेक्टिव्हिटी इट इज हॅव्हिंग irrespective of any nature of the liquid. It's called as intrinsic permeability.